You're listening to Podcasting Up an Octave, a podcast by Sonivia, the podcasting agency that believes that women and queer people deserve to take up space in the podcasting industry because our thoughts, voices, and stories matter. Here you'll learn how to make a dope podcast that inspires, educates, converts, and most importantly, makes your voice shine. I'm your host, Rue Spence, and I'm here to take podcasting up an octave. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to Podcasting Up an Octave. Today, we are going to get really real. Raise your hand if you've ever said, I'm just going to take a short break from the podcast. Suddenly it's been 3 months and you've got no new episodes and you're too embarrassed to even open your hosting website. Maybe it's because the executive dysfunction catches up to you. It's not that you don't care, it's just that it's all starting to feel impossible. One unfinished step snowballs into dread, then avoidance, then shame. Or maybe it's that the imposter syndrome creeps in and you start wondering whether your voice even matters, whether your podcast ever made a difference, and whether you were even qualified to do this in the first place. Or maybe life just started lifing and work got in the way, family commitments got in the way, or you're just trying to carry the absolute weight of the world on your shoulders and you push the podcast off your priority list until one day it fell off. You are not alone. Today, we're talking about podcasting guilt, what causes it, how it sneaks into our creative processes, and most importantly, how to move through it with compassion and come back to your show on your terms. If that sounds like what you need, get cozy. I've got you. First things first, let's name what podcast guilt actually is. It's rarely about a missed episode or a tiny little blip in your consistency. It's almost always about what we make that missed episode mean. Maybe you told yourself, I wasted all that money on gear and now I'm not even using it. Are people going to think I'm a flake and I gave up? Or I had this big launch and now I'm too embarrassed to even show my face again. Or everyone else is so consistent, why can't I just do it? And my personal favorite, the one that I hear anytime something goes even a little bit wrong in my life, I guess this means I'm not cut out for this after all. And to that, I say your capacity is not a character flaw. Sometimes the podcast guilt is about executive dysfunction, where you want to record, but the starting point feels too far away. Sometimes it's about the identity, because if you're a person who has been socialized to overachieve and read enough books to earn pizzas, you've probably built your self-worth around being the reliable one, the good girl, the person who can be counted on. Sometimes it's about fear, though, that if you come back, no one will care. Or worse, that they will, and you'll have to keep up with that momentum again. So let's take a deep breath. You are allowed to have seasons of your life with differing capacity, and your podcast can too. Podcast guilt often disconnects us from the soul of our show, the joy, the creative spark, the thing that made you so excited to hit record in the first place. So here are some gentle prompts, an invitation to start some journaling if you're feeling lost. Ask yourself what originally made you want to start this podcast. When did it feel the most fun, alive, or exciting? What kinds of episodes do you secretly wish you could make now, even if they break the rules? And rules here is definitely in air quotes. This podcast is your playground. You don't owe anyone a certain format or vibe or cadence. You can pivot. You can reimagine your show in ways that feel creatively alive again. Something else that we tend to get tripped up on is this lie of all or nothing. Podcasting guilt thrives in this all or nothing mindset. The belief that if you're not dropping episodes weekly, showing up on Instagram, building an empire while managing groceries and all the other things on your to-do list, then you might as well just hang it up. And this is something that I've even had to kind of deprogram in myself too, as my views have evolved. Here is what I have observed and kind of paid attention to after editing and helping bring over 1,000 podcast episodes into the world. Consistency matters, but it doesn't have to mean weekly forever. You build trust with your audience by being honest, not perfect, and showing up with your full humanity is more powerful than pushing through burnout just for the sake of metrics. Your people, the ones who resonate with your work, they don't need you to be a machine. They need you to be real. And sometimes being real means saying, hey, I took a break. Here's what I learned. Here's what you missed. I'm back because I'm ready. That is not failure. That is showing up with integrity. And something I tell my clients all the time when they get really hung up on consistency or perfection is that this is not heart surgery. Like, I, as someone who is in this industry, think podcasting matters. I think it's important. I think we're doing good work. But no one dies if you get it wrong. Like, there is such low stakes. It is not that big of a deal. And chances are people are not watching you as closely as you're watching yourself. So how do you restart without shame? If you've been holding your breath, waiting for the right moment to come back to your show, I invite you to exhale. There is no perfect reentry. There is no perfect relaunch. But there are some gentle steps that can make it easier. Don't ghost your audience. Reconnect with them. Even if it's been months, even if you feel weird and cringy, you can start with an episode that, even if it's totally off topic, is just, here's where I've been, here's where I'm going. People appreciate honesty more than perfection. And hey, if Netflix can go 3 years between seasons of Stranger Things, and George R.R. Martin has left Game of Thrones fans hanging for 13 years, I think you're allowed to step away and come back. Do a mini audit. Ask yourself what's still working, what feels outdated. What do I actually want my show to look like moving forward? Because it is not going to be sustainable if you just fall back into the old habits that made you run away from it in the beginning. Set a rhythm that fits your life. Now, don't start with a promise to publish weekly forever. Create a plan that feels good and allow yourself to change your mind as your bandwidth changes. Maybe it's time to do 10-episode seasons. Maybe it's time to switch to bi-weekly. Maybe it's time to cut your episode length in half. Figure out why the flow is not working and how you can augment it to make it sustainable for your life now. And remember that seasons change, and so do we. If you are in a very high, heavy season right now, maybe we reduce for a little bit, and then when things calm down, you let your podcast fill some of those gaps when you actually have them. And gosh dang it, give yourself enough credit for caring enough to come back, for learning, for growing, for surviving whatever the heck it was that took you away from the mic in the first place. So let's say you've worked through some of the shame. You're reconnecting with your vision, but you still kind of feel like a baby giraffe. Here are some low pressure ways to come back without going full speed rocket launch right away. The voice memo episode. This is literally you with your phone and probably like driving, cooking breakfast, making coffee, whatever. It's literally just a 5-minute check-in. See how it feels. See what comes up for you. What feels good to say. Then you take that and you turn it into your episode. Go record with your actual setup now that you feel a little more prepped and you've broken the ice, and tell your audience where you've been, what you're dreaming up, or what's next. The whole point of this episode is to break your silence and say, surprise, I'm here again. Next, the baby steps. Come back with a mini-series, 6 episodes, instead of committing to weekly. Again, this helps you build momentum without overpromising, and the best part is that no one needs to know. You don't have to announce, hey, I'm doing 6 episodes, but silently make that commitment to yourself. Tell your friends or mentors so they can keep you accountable, but don't feel the need to broadcast it to your audience. Then after those 6 episodes, see how things are feeling, reevaluate at that point, and continue to lean into what feels good. You're allowed to wade back in. You don't have to jump straight into the deep end. I want to leave you with this. There is no expiration date on your podcast, and there is no shame in pausing. There is no race to win or no finish line to cross. And there should be no guilt in coming back either. There's no rule book that says your show has to look the same in this season of your life as it did in the last. If you're ready to return, but you want to do it intentionally in a way that supports your actual life, it might be time for a podcast reset. You can book at the link in the show notes and come back to your podcast with clarity, confidence, and peace, with a cheerleader in your corner. If today's episode resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. Shoot me a DM on Instagram at Sunivia Studios and tell me where you're at with your show. Let's talk through it. You're never too far gone to come back. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for helping me take podcasting up an octave.